Have you ever looked at your tomato plants in late August, laden with firm yet stubbornly green fruit? Time keeps ticking, nights grow colder, and still, those tomatoes refuse to ripen. Frustrating, isn't it? But what if I told you there's a way to make almost all the tomatoes on a bush ripen simultaneously, all at once, as if on cue? And the best part, it doesn't require a single drop of chemicals. In this video, we'll unveil a simple yet incredibly effective gardening technique that will transform your green expectations into a bountiful red harvest. To truly understand how our method works, let's take a peek inside the mind of a tomato plant. A plant's primary goal isn't to yield all its fruit at once. Instead, its strategy is to extend the fruiting period, ensuring it can successfully produce offspring, regardless of fluctuating weather conditions. That's why tomatoes ripen gradually, typically starting with the lower clusters. The main orchestrator of this entire process is the plant hormone, ethylene gas. It's this gas that signals to the fruit, time to turn red. Our task isn't to fight against nature, but rather to cleverly assist it, creating conditions where the plant itself decides it's time to release its entire harvest and urgently kickstart ethylene production in all its fruits. Alright, so where do we begin with our red harvest mission? The first and arguably most crucial step is choosing the perfect timing. We need sniper-like precision here. If we jump the gun, we won't give those developing fruits a chance to mature. We'd miss out on a significant part of our yield, which is always a real shame. But if we wait too long, we risk losing the race against the encroaching autumn cold. The first hard frost will simply wipe out our green tomatoes, leaving them no chance at all. The golden rule, as seasoned gardeners know, is to start roughly 30 to 40 days before those initial serious cold spells hit. So, how do we pinpoint that date? Check the long-term weather forecast for your area. Typically, for those in temperate regions, this window falls from early to mid-August. Also, keep a close eye on the nighttime temperatures. As soon as they consistently drop below 10 or 12 degrees Celsius, that's a clear signal to the plants. It's time to halt their vegetative growth and pour all their energy into producing fruit. Our precious tomatoes. Nailing the timing is the absolute cornerstone of our entire success. Alright, we've settled on the timing. What's next? Now, our task is to physically stop the plant's growth. You see, tomato plants are incredibly vigorous growers. They'll keep reaching upwards, producing new suckers and leaves, as long as there's even a hint of warmth and light. But late in the season, this is an inefficient use of the plant's energy. We don't need new green growth. We need ripe, red tomatoes. So, we need to send the plant a clear and unmistakable message. That's it. Growth season over. Time to ripen your fruit. To do this, we perform a procedure gardeners call pinching or topping. We locate the uppermost growing tip on each main stem. That's the point where new leaves are emerging. You simply pinch it off with your fingers or carefully snip it with pruning shears. A crucial detail, don't snip it right at the absolute tip. Instead, leave 2 or 3 leaves above the highest formed fruit cluster. These leaves will act like pumps, channeling vital nutrients down to the fruits. This simple operation completely halts the plant's vertical growth, forcing it to redirect all its nourishing sap from the roots, not into new shoots, but directly into the existing tomatoes. We've pinched the tops, but this stubborn tomato refuses to quit. It relentlessly tries to reproduce, throwing out new flower trusses left and right. Those adorable little yellow flowers look so sweet and promising, don't they? You might think another tiny tomato is just about to form, but this late in the season, they're nothing but a drain on vital nutrients and a false hope for us. Let's be realistic. Any flower that appears in mid to late August simply won't have enough time to develop into a full-sized, ripe tomato. At best, it will turn into a tiny, pea-sized green fruit, needlessly sapping the plant's precious energy and never ripening before the first frost hits. Remember, each one of these flowers consumes potassium, phosphorus, and other crucial elements. These are the very nutrients desperately needed right now by the larger, already developing green tomatoes. So as difficult as it might seem, our hand must not waver. We need to ruthlessly remove every single flower, and even the unopened buds. Every flower we remove means an extra boost of energy, and nutrients redirected to its larger green siblings, speeding their journey to that coveted red colour. We apply the very same principle to the next candidates for removal. These are the smallest newly formed tomatoes, perhaps pea-sized, or even the size of a small cherry. Yes, I know it's truly hard to pull off even a tiny fruit that has already set. It feels like such a waste. But let's once again apply the cold, hard logic of a seasoned gardener. This tiny tomato has virtually no chance of growing to a normal size, let alone ripening before the cold weather sets in. Like an unnecessary flower, it becomes a drain on the plant's energy, sucking up valuable sugars and micronutrients from the main supply. The outcome is a lose-lose situation. This tiny fruit won't develop, and its larger, more promising counterparts will be starved of essential nutrients, delaying their ripening. So ruthlessly remove all the tiny fruits that clearly won't ripen in time. Every pea-sized fruit you remove provides an extra boost of energy for those that do have a real chance of becoming big and red. This isn't cruelty, it's simply smart resource management for your tomato plant's success. All right, we've completed the initial pruning. We've removed the tops, flowers, and tiny fruitlets. What did this accomplish? We've artificially rerouted the plant's nutrient supply. Think of it like a complex road network. Before, the sap from the roots was distributed everywhere, upwards to new leaves, sideways to suckers, to the blossoms, and to all developing fruits regardless of their size. Now we've effectively closed off all those unnecessary roots. We've left open just one primary pathway: roots, main stem, large green fruits. Now, all the essential resources, water, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, and the sugars produced in the leaves are channeled in a single powerful flow directly to where we need them. The fruits that previously received nutrients on a leftover basis are now the absolute priority. They're receiving a significantly boosted supply, allowing them not only to grow larger, more quickly, but also to actively accumulate the compounds essential for kickstarting the ripening process. Essentially, we've transformed our tomato plant from a chaotic construction site into a perfectly optimized ripening conveyor. All right, so we've got our nutrient logistics all sorted. Now it's time to gently stress our tomato, giving it a subtle yet significant nudge. Don't worry, we're not talking about tormenting it. In the plant world, a little stress is actually a powerful catalyst, pushing them into the final phase of their life cycle, ripening the seeds tucked inside their fruit. When a plant senses conditions are deteriorating, its core biological programming kicks in, essentially yelling, "Danger! Time to ensure the next generation." And what does offspring mean for a tomato? You guessed it. Ripe fruit packed with mature seeds. Our goal is to artificially create the illusion of these worsening conditions. Think of it like a gentle push that makes a thoughtful athlete suddenly sprint for the finish line. We're not breaking the plant, we're motivating it. And there are several highly effective and safe methods to do this, which will serve as that unmistakable signal to our tomatoes. It's time! Time to turn red! We'll go through them one by one now. The first and easiest way to introduce controlled stress is to cut back on your watering. Think about what naturally happens as summer winds down. Rainfall becomes less frequent, and the soil gradually dries out. For plants, this is a clear signal that autumn is on its way. We're simply mimicking this natural process at home. From now on, you'll want to cut back on those generous, frequent watering sessions. Our goal isn't to turn your garden into the Sahara Desert, of course. Instead, we want the soil to dry out a bit deeper and more thoroughly than you typically allow. If you used to water as soon as the top layer felt dry, now wait until the soil is dry, down to about 5 to 7 centimetres, roughly 2 to 3 inches deep. The plant will immediately sense this moisture deficit. It's like the plant is getting a clear message. Water is becoming scarce, and it might soon run out completely. I need to ripen these fruits quickly while I still have the chance. This method doesn't just encourage ripening, it actually makes the tomatoes taste much better. Too much water often leads to watery, less flavourful fruits. A slight drought condition, however, actually concentrates the sugars and dry matter within them. The key is not to overdo it. You'll need to keep a close eye on your plant's leaves. If you notice them wilting severely, even on a cloudy day, it means you've pushed them too far, and a light watering is definitely needed. Now for the main event, an almost secret technique that truly shocks plants into action, giving them the most powerful push towards ripening. Get ready because we're about to slightly stress the root system. It might sound drastic, but in practice, it's a highly effective and, when done correctly, perfectly safe method. Our goal is to partially disrupt the plant's uptake of water and nutrients from its roots. To do this, go to the base of the plant, firmly but gently grasp the main stem, and give it a slight, careful tug upwards. Your goal is to hear a faint, barely noticeable crunch. That sound indicates the smallest, absorbent root hairs are breaking. These are the very roots responsible for absorbing most of the plant's water and nutrients from the soil. So what happens from the tomato's perspective at this moment? It instantly receives an alarm signal. Warning, root system damaged, resource intake drastically cut. My very survival is at stake. And what primal instinct kicks in? That's right, the instinct for urgent reproduction. The plant immediately diverts all its energy and reserves into ripening its fruits as quickly as possible, before it perishes completely. This is the most powerful stimulus we can possibly give it. A crucial point about the previous step: don't overdo it. We're not trying to uproot the plant entirely. We don't want a bush ripped out and lying uselessly in the bed. Our goal is precisely a light disturbance, a minor trauma. Proceed smoothly, without sudden jerks. If the soil is very dense, gently rock the stem from side to side a few times before pulling upwards. Conversely, if the soil is very loose and the plant gives easily, you need to be extra careful. You've succeeded when you feel the plant shift about an inch upwards and hear that telltale snap of tiny roots breaking. After this procedure, the plant might wilt slightly for a day or two, perhaps even look a bit droopy. This is a completely normal stress response due to reduced water uptake. Don't panic and resist the urge to water it immediately, as that would completely negate the desired effect. Within a couple of days, the leaves will regain their turgor, the plant will adapt to its new conditions, and the powerful accelerated ripening program will have already kicked in, working at full throttle. Now that we've restricted the plant's access to soil nutrients, it's only logical that we also need to reevaluate what we're feeding it, especially if you're still applying supplemental feeds. During this crucial period, there's one golden rule: completely cut out nitrogen. Nitrogen is the element responsible for growth. It drives the development of green foliage, leaves, stems, and side shoots. Right now, this is absolutely the last thing we need. Any nitrogen-rich feed, be it a manure tea, chicken litter, or green fertilizer, will directly counteract our objective. It will stimulate growth in the tomato plant, essentially sending it the wrong message. The plant will interpret it as, "Oh, food's here, time to grow more," and will divert precious energy back into developing new shoots, instead of focusing all its efforts on fruit production. So, let's banish all nitrogen-containing fertilizers to the back of the shed until next spring. Our goal now isn't to promote vegetative growth, but to encourage ripening. And that, as you might guess, is a job for entirely different elements. So, if we've cut out nitrogen entirely, does that mean we can stop fertilizing? Absolutely not. We simply need to focus on the right kind of fertilizers now. To really speed up tomato ripening, our two best friends are potassium and phosphorus. These are the key players in fruit development, helping them to size up, get their vibrant colour, and accumulate those delicious sugars. Potassium, for instance, is crucial for transporting nutrients from the leaves directly into the fruits. The more potassium available, the quicker your tomatoes will ripen and the sweeter they'll taste. Phosphorus, on the other hand, provides the plant with the essential energy needed for all these complex biochemical processes. So where do you find these powerhouses? The easiest and most readily available option is wood ash. It's naturally rich in potassium, phosphorus, and a good range of beneficial micronutrients. You can make an ash tea. Simply mix about a cup of ash into 10 litres of water. Let it steep for a while, then use it to water the base of your plants. Alternatively, just sprinkle dry ash directly around the base of your tomato plants. Another excellent option is to use readily available complex fertilizers. Look for ones marketed as fall or bloom formulas, or simply check the NPK ratio, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You want one where nitrogen, N, is 0 or very low, and phosphorus, P, and potassium, K, are significantly higher. This type of feeding won't stimulate new vegetative growth. Instead, it acts like a potent energy drink, giving your tomatoes that final push to ripen beautifully. The next crucial step in our strategy is strategic leaf pruning for sanitation and light optimization. By the end of the season, the lower part of the tomato plant can become quite a dense jungle. These lower leaves are no longer effectively performing their primary function, photosynthesis. They become old, yellowed, and often covered in spots. Instead, they actively impede air circulation at ground level, creating ideal conditions for fungal diseases, especially late blight, to thrive. Furthermore, these leaves shade the lower fruit trusses and evaporate valuable moisture, which we are already trying to conserve. So, without hesitation, grab your clean pruners or scissors and remove all leaves up to the first fruit truss. The lower stem should be completely bare. Don't worry, this will only benefit your plants. This simple procedure achieves 3 key objectives simultaneously. It significantly improves air circulation, thereby reducing disease risk. It allows more sunlight to reach the developing fruits, and it eliminates unnecessary consumers of water and nutrients. Now that we've pruned the lower leaves from our tomato plants, it's time for a thorough overall assessment. Our main goal is to ensure maximum sunlight reaches every single developing tomato cluster. Sunlight isn't just about warmth, it's the critical trigger for lycopene production, that essential pigment that turns your tomatoes red. If a truss is perpetually shaded by thick foliage, its ripening process will be considerably delayed. That's why we need to review the plant's canopy. Identify and confidently remove any leaves that are directly shading your developing fruit clusters. You don't need to strip the plant completely bare. Leaves are still essential for photosynthesis. However, removing just 2 or 3 leaves that cast a dense shadow over a truss is an entirely warranted step. Occasionally, all it takes is carefully repositioning a truss and gently tying it to ensure it receives more direct sunlight. Remember, every extra hour of direct sunlight is a crucial step towards your harvest ripening quickly and uniformly. Now let's talk about a very popular home remedy or trick that often sparks debate. It involves placing a plastic bag containing a banana peel or a ripe apple directly over a cluster of green tomatoes. Seems a little unusual, right? Some people dismiss it as an old wives' tale, while others swear by its effectiveness. So, what's the real story? The truth is, this method is actually rooted in sound scientific principles. Remember earlier when we discussed ethylene gas, the ripening hormone? Well, ripe apples and especially bananas, more specifically their peels, are absolute powerhouses when it comes to releasing ethylene into the environment. By placing them in the enclosed space of a plastic bag along with a cluster of green tomatoes, we're essentially creating a mini gas chamber. The concentration of ethylene inside the bag dramatically increases. This gas then permeates the tomato fruits, acting like a trigger that kickstarts their internal biochemical ripening processes. It's pure chemistry and it absolutely works. So it's not a myth at all, but a genuinely real and effective hack. Can we speed up the process even further, especially when the nights are already quite cold? Absolutely. Warmth is our ally. At night, as temperatures drop, all of the plant's biochemical processes, including ripening, slow down significantly. If your tomatoes are growing in a greenhouse or cold frame, you have a huge advantage. Simply close all doors and vents at night. Even a simple covering of plastic film or horticultural fleece can trap the heat accumulated during the day, maintaining an inside temperature 3 to 5 degrees higher than outside. This seemingly small difference plays an enormous role. In warmer conditions, ripening processes proceed much more actively. If your tomatoes are in an open field, you can drape a non-woven row cover over the bushes at night. This will not only protect them from cold dew, which often triggers late blight, but also create a more comfortable microclimate, preventing the fruits from cooling down too much. Conserving nighttime warmth is like getting extra time in a game. It can truly turn the tide for your entire harvest. Experienced gardeners sometimes employ another stress-inducing technique. It's more radical than root shocking and definitely requires a delicate touch. This method is known as stem splitting. Using a sharp, clean knife, make a longitudinal cut at the very base of the plant, about 5 to 7 centimetres, roughly 2 to 3 inches, from the ground. This cut should go all the way through the stem and be about 5 to 6 centimetres, 2 to 2.5 inches long. Then, a small wooden splint or a flat stick is inserted into this cut to prevent the edges from closing up. What's the effect? The splint physically constricts a portion of the stem's vascular bundles, the very pathways that transport water and nutrients from the roots upwards. This creates an even more severe resource deficit for the entire plant. The plant receives an incredibly powerful threat signal, and its reaction, accelerated fruit ripening, is almost instantaneous. However, this method should be approached with extreme caution. If you overdo it and make the cut too large, you risk killing the plant entirely. This technique is best suited for robust, healthy plants with thick, sturdy stems. For novice gardeners, however, I'd still recommend sticking to the safer method of root shocking. So, you've completed all those initial steps. Now comes the crucial observation phase. Every day, make sure to walk through your garden and meticulously inspect your tomato clusters. Your goal is to spot the first scout, that initial tomato that begins to change its colour. It'll start off a milky white, then get a subtle pink blush on one side, before truly filling out with that vibrant red. The moment you spot even one such fruit on a vine, you can celebrate a small victory. It's a clear indication that the ripening process is officially underway. This pioneering tomato will actively start releasing its own ethylene, that vital, ripening gas. This gas, in turn, influences its closest green neighbours on the cluster, encouraging them to begin turning red as well. And just like that, a true chain reaction kicks off. Once that first tomato shows its colour, the others will start to follow suit, almost on cue. First on the same cluster, then spreading to neighbouring ones. Your job was to kickstart this mechanism, and the appearance of that first ripe fruit confirms you've succeeded. And the last, most challenging part for any home gardener is patience. You've done everything right. You've limited growth, created stress, and optimised nutrition and lighting. You've set a complex biochemical mechanism in motion. Now there's no need to fuss or expect instant results the very next morning. Give the plant time to reorient itself and respond to the conditions you've created. Typically, visible changes begin to appear within 7 to 10 days after all procedures. There's no need to run to the bushes with a magnifying glass every day or make any new adjustments. Simply observe. You'll see how the green fruits first seem to cloud or dull, losing their vibrant emerald colour, becoming lighter, and then the first orange or pink patches will start to emerge. This marks the beginning of the end of their green youth. Your intervention was brief and decisive. Now, allow nature to complete its work. Trust me, the results will pleasantly surprise you. You won't just see isolated red tomatoes, but entire trusses that ripen with colour uniformly and almost simultaneously. Now for the real game changer, the aha moment many gardeners miss. The secret isn't in one single action, not pinching, not root pruning, and not even the old apple trick. The secret is synergy. You're not just doing one thing, you're creating the perfect storm for your plant. You're speaking its language, telling it, that's it, the season's over. No more water, no more nutrients, no more time to grow. Your only chance to survive is to quickly mature those seeds in these fruits. Pinching stops vegetative growth. limiting water and disrupting roots, simulate drought and create a perceived threat. And removing excess fruit and leaves concentrates all the remaining energy into a single goal. The plant enters a mild panic and releases the ripening hormone, ethylene, into all the fruits simultaneously. You're not forcing it, you're persuading it. And all of this relies on completely natural, inherent mechanisms without a single drop of chemicals. So, as you can see, getting a synchronized harvest of ripe red tomatoes doesn't require magic. It just takes a little understanding of plant biology and knowing when to send the right signals. It's simple, effective, and completely safe for your harvest. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more gardening tips and tricks. What are your secrets for speeding up tomato ripening? Share your tried and true methods in the comments below. Let's build the best collection of tips together.